Hi, this is Corey Zyman, and today in this presentation we're going to talk about how using search engine advertising in the most economical way possible, that is to not always just ask for the sale. Obviously in some markets you're going to want to always ask for the sale. If you're trying to get someone to come into your local ice cream shop or buy a $20 nutritional supplement that by brand name, and they're typing that in Google, asking for the sale is the obvious thing you want to do because that's what most people are doing. However, in a lot of niches, especially and usually with higher priced items, people are looking for information as a total more so than buying. And so just understanding that and understanding you'll get more value by marketing to people in the way that they're using the medium, you're going to get more return on investment. And that would go for any social ads that you would do, given that people don't like to be hard sold on these platforms. The same thing goes with search engines. People are using it as an information source first and foremost, as you would with what you would do. And so we're just going to talk about some strategies on how you would then ultimately use search engines in this way. And so as far as in just actual types of strategies, here pretty well sums it up on what you would do. Instead of actually doing a ad that tries to get someone to sign up for the service, if they're looking for an ESOP service advisor, having a guide on how to choose a proper advisor. Seeming non-biased, obviously there's a strong pull if you're an information seeker at this point, and everybody is at some point in this market, and there's many markets, especially convoluted ones like this, that they're going to click on, or more apt to click on this information first. And who do you think is actually going to have the higher likelihood of getting the purchase? Even if you have a affiliate or own a separate domain that runs that looks like a third-party source that runs these reviews or provides third-party information, at the end of the day they're still going to promote something within that information, and then they're probably, if the information's good, going to go down a different road that you'd want them to. And so just being obtuse about the situation and how you're spending your search advertising budget. If you're just going after the buyers and not caring about the tire kickers, I can tell you just by catering to the tire kickers, if someone is, you're definitely losing tons of market share, or as of what you could be getting out of the total market that is using Google to find a solution provider month to month. But even if not, you could be getting a huge, it's even more so you should be doing it, because you could get tons of, if you're the only one doing it, and I have noticed if you're the only one doing this stuff, the results are just amazing. And what's amazing, so literally you can, if you set the back end funnel up right, and you write the right copy and all of this stuff, and introduce the, let's say, a buyer's guide in the right kind of format that actually provides them all the information that they need. So if they were to click on this link and then they were looking how to find a provider, they were trying to get it, they were mid-funnel, let's say, literally you can get, let's say 25% to half of those people, that you normally couldn't get have gotten, and even people don't realize, even if you do convert somebody that is looking for information, let's say you get them onto the phone, you talk to them, that doesn't guarantee they'll go with you, obviously, because maybe they'll want a third-party opinion, or the salesperson didn't really, there's only so many things you can convey over the phone. And even if you could convey or send documentation through the email or what have you, it's just inefficient. Not nearly as efficient as just doing a text and graphical representation of what somebody needs to know about something on a web page. As soon as they click, let them have the value first. So, and just to sum it up, this is as per our studies. Just looking at a lot of different campaigns that we're working on it. And if you were in something where most people need information, let's say 60% that even click on your ads are looking for information still. You can tell that if you're skeptical as to whether that's happening in your business, you can just do a installation of like Hotjar on your site and just physically watch the people that are on your site, what they're doing, how they're scrolling, where they're scrolling to, where they're moving their mouse around. There's a lot to be figured out by that. And it allows you to not lie to yourself about it, because at that point you can't. You physically can't deny people weren't looking to opt in right away. Ultimately, if they're looking for a service provider, they get to your page and they're bouncing over half the time, then it should be obvious most of these people want information, and you offer them the information knowing that that's actually not a waste of money. It's actually going to be a huge bonus for you being able to do that, which we'll get into. So like if, for instance, if we were going to sell a water filtration system, this just goes to show, ultimately, and this is something I've done previously, sending a person to a very long sales page, and at the bottom of the sales page having a form to opt in for a free brochure, which has more information about this particular product. Starting off with not just going in with hard selling the product, but easing into it, talking about some different things in the market, and then getting into why some other products are better than others, and then mentioning our product, which has these features, and then once they're sold on the product and why, you actually offer them the more enhanced information, the technical information, all this stuff that a person really is only ready for until they've already been bought into a product line and a specific product model. Then you obviously get their information at that point. You can continue marketing by email. Once they've filled in, as it become a lead, you can segment them out for further retargeting campaigns and so forth. And obviously you can call them, which is what this client had done too as well. Everything was done, and ultimately I recommend a multifaceted approach such as that. Not just email, not just a call, not just ads, but everything, especially on higher end products. So obviously what you can do is you can test all kinds of different messages and so forth. But users were enticed with even more related information until each product, to the user's needs were satisfied. So in essence, though, we tested the messaging that got the person within that first hook that we needed to get them into our mechanism. We'll test the messaging, and then after they've gotten in, let's say they opted in, then we'll hit them with another remarketing ad, and then we'll send them to more content. So basically, what you want to do in a nutshell here is figure out all of the things the person needs to know about your product or service, and really just package those up into a series of emails, ads, and additional landing pages that will be seeded out over a period of time, and just to continue to attract them with ads and with emails and with calls or whatever you have to do until they consume all this information. Assuming that if they had all the information about the product, that they would only choose your product. And that's usually true, not just from the standpoint of understanding why it's important to buy your product, because most people are very obtuse in that they assume that the customer should just realize this stuff, and from people don't know the finer points of what you're trying to sell them. And so you have to, that's one thing. And then also once they become invested in your product and service by reading all this material, they're just apt to buy it anyway. So if it adds up, it's logical in their minds, it taps into what you think and what is important to them, the consumer, and put it in a way that they understand. Eventually, when they read all this content, your chances of getting them to buy is very, very high, and it keeps getting higher the more content that they read. Ultimately, here's a type of just results that you can get, on just a typical campaign, which is when we pulled this from. First of all, by just having a content-based ad where you're pushing a buyer's guide, you're going to get 2-3 times as many clicks on that ad. So you're in a tight market, or if you're in a tight market, ultimately the easiest way generally to make more money is just to get more people to click on your ads, right? There's only so much juice to squeeze, and getting an info-based ad will get definitely more people to click. From there, you get them into your funnel, and then obviously it might take longer to get them to ultimately turn into a real hot lead, but you're going to get with a lot more leads this way, and your cost per click goes down because the CPC goes up, so it's not so much a direct cost, and the cost per conversion, given it's just information that you're getting them to opt into, is much less at the end of the day with all this said, because obviously it's a very low commitment offer, and they're not as scared to actually talk. It's a real situation when somebody has to commit to speak to a salesperson, not just because they don't want to talk to a sleazy salesman, but they know they're going to get hounded with calls forever. So whereas obviously people are catching on to if you opt in for information, that stuff happens. At the end of the day, at least it's not a guarantee in their minds. So it still works better. So, and then from, when you're doing this stuff, you got to find kind of the right offer. So let alone just having all that information lined up for the consumer that just starts at the initial search ad that you set up for them and the initial opt-in. Finding the type of content that's going to work, resonate the highest with your audience. And you can do that by looking at current content that you have and see how the bounce rates stack up. But more so than that, you can actually within your AdWords account split test this stuff. You can pull your analytics data right into AdWords by adjusting your columns, which we have done in this case. See which one provides the lowest bounce rate, and then going with that. Highly recommend that you do that kind of testing because you'll never really know what's going to work until you test a different copy, and that makes a big difference on your results. And then obviously, so not all terms are treated the same. Just sticking one piece of content in front of everybody is not good either. Just sticking one, type of, an offer to speak to a salesman is just like that is not going to work for everything. But what is usually the most profitable is a medley of the two. In some terms, for some businesses, you're going to have a good portion, which is just people ready to buy now. Like for instance, here I have AC repair. If they type in AC repair services, obviously they're not going to want to mess around and read some content about how to pick a AC repair specialist and not get ripped off or something like that. Whereas if they type in AC compressor repair, that's somewhat of an arbitrary term, enough so that if somebody's Googling that this might be somebody who knows the compressor went out, and then they may, it won't be just a DIY type. It might be somebody that just needs to know what they're dealing with so they don't have to call up a salesperson on the phone and get sold a $5,000 air conditioning system unnecessarily, and kind of just do some fact checking for themselves real quick. And in that case, you can go in there and position yourself as a information source, and then you get their information, and such as and just kind of, instead of just saying how to repair a compressor, it will be how to tell if your compressor is broken, indicating or advocating that this person actually just needs to know if they need to hire a AC repair company. And in that case, you'd pull forward all those leads. And that's just one way to go about it. And one example here, what you would want to do. And then ultimately, in order to do all this stuff, you look at the data and just see what the data tells you after doing a lot of testing. And once ultimately that you have for AC compressor repair, for instance, that it's better to go at it from an informational approach. And obviously you can then test your landing page offer. For instance, in this example, we have a dummy's guide to repairing, or how to diagnose an AC repair. And in another situation, we could have a dummy's guide on how to believe what your repair company says. So, these would be pretty good subjects for targeting a consumer like that. And you can test it either way in that case, obviously. So before you actually get into deciding the offer, that's definitely the most important part in terms of like this type of strategy. Obviously, if it's pretty straightforward when they want to hire somebody now or buy something now, you just stick it in front of their face versus this informational approach. You may not know what they want. It may be not kind of off the beaten track. How to find somebody who is looking for a information planner. It may be, or a financial planner, that you attract people by finding how to maximize your Social Security, people that are financial conscious and are starting to kind of get their interest into this would be like kind of the first step into starting to plan your retirement and so forth, and they know that. And so, you know, what I'm trying to get into here is instead of just diving right in, whereas one offer over another could have a huge impact on whether or not you succeed or not, you should probably go out and see what else is out there. There are a lot of good tools you can find, you know, even major companies that are doing this type of stuff, content marketing, just looking for what type of offers that work, so that there is something that surrounds the general universe of what you're doing. Then you can find that. One example I saw recently that someone did this was that for a drug rehab center, they actually found that people who had problems also wanted to seek, let's say, outpatient treatment had problems sleeping, so that they came out with a YouTube channel with sleeping music. And so you can kind of see it doesn't have to always be directly relevant either. It can be tied to the problem directly. But in any case, big companies have done this research for you. There's millions of dollars of research and plugged into customer research studies and surveys and tested stuff. You don't have to do all this stuff yourself unless you're in a very specific vertical. You usually can find something out there. The iSpot TV is a website where you can see archived TV commercials by brand. One place I go to find stuff. AdExpresso has a archive where they have Facebook ads that have bigger brands that have run. Usually smaller brands' stuff won't show up. Medium-sized brands will still. And you can find stuff, you know, offers that have been run there that way. As far as regular banner ads that are out there, you know, via Google AdWords or through different ad networks, you can find on thismoat.com, and there are some other softwares like it. This is just one where you can find something. And then obviously, again, if you sold something in the, you know, brain or head pain relief vertical, you may be able to just look into, you know, ancillary products that also solve that problem, that are not directly competing with you necessarily, or indirectly competing with you, and look what they're doing. And what you're looking for is the subconscious cues that get people to act. So getting the opt-in, as with any of, you know, lead generation online, you can get more opt-ins obviously by having your opt-in process more simple, and then your leads are going to be more qualified if it's more complicated, in that you're going to have weeded out the less motivated people. So you're going to have to play around with what you got. And then ultimately, time on the phone wasted with somebody explaining this stuff is also not good. What you're looking for is to give them a fairly general education, and then get the opt-in for. Once you have understood they have fairly good intent to really learn about this stuff, get them to opt in. So, you know, a short opt-in, just saying like, let's say if we offer business valuation services, like in this example, what you need to know, and then sticking them right to a page that says you will learn all this stuff, opt in now. Generally, I try to avoid that approach because the lead quality is not that good. I want to know when I get a lead list, I can call it, and that the lead's fairly good quality, and also that lead list that I get can be remarketed to, and in other ways, in that whatever I spend marketing to it is good money spent, and it's not full of crappy leads. So in that, what I'll generally opt for instead is actually going ahead and giving them some information first. It also builds trust with the user more so, in that the people that are better quality leads will opt in more because now they trust you more, instead of, because people again have caught on to this whole thing where they take, you get spammed to death if you enter your information. So you make it less about seeming like that's what all you're gunning for, is to spam them to death, and to actually provide the value up front, and then they'll think it'll kind of just throw them off guard. Everything you're doing in marketing is to try to kind of make it not seem like you're everybody else, right? That's kind of the name of the game. And so I generally, if you're going to do this stuff, I would recommend going this approach. You're going to end up with better quality lead. At the end of the day, you're going to make more money then it's not just you have more to deal with. All in all, you're gonna make more money giving them solid information up front, and then getting them to opt in, and then offering them more solid information after. From there, so you can take this a step further. In a lot of cases, I also do this. So if we were going to get through the sequence, instead of just asking for an opt-in right away, even that might be a little too soon for a big decision like this. Also, for just to learn more in general about why they're going to get something. If somebody's going to get a business valuation service, in terms of marketing to them further, it's not real helpful to know that in terms of like actually being able to help them make the end decision that we want through the information without knowing. Let's say that they're getting it for a company stock program, if they're getting a divorce, partners leaving the company, they had a death in the family, let's say. So in that case, then you could have at the end there that, in order, first build up some value, then you can say something like, in order to help you further, what are you getting a valuation for? Click on something there out of a list. They've pre-qualified themselves. They've now put themselves on a unique remarketing list that we can market it to them. This takes a page out of the email marketing manual. You get onto different lists if you click on different things. This works better because you get a lot more impressions with the user, a lot more engagement this way with ads. But then in this case, you can see how this works, and then you get to another page that has a similar style information. At the end of that, you have an opt-in for information that's specifically about a company stock program, business valuation information. In that case, obviously, once they fill that in, that's a really, really solid quality thing, a lead, and then the emails and everything else you send them can be very, very tailored to that, and your chances of being able to sell to them through information to the point where they'll just call you up and say, okay, let's get started pretty well, is very, very high. And that's kind of what you're looking for with marketing. You call it marketing automation. I call it sales automation, because really that's what it is. All this stuff that a salesperson normally could do or have to do, you can do with stuff like this. There's no reason why you can't. And it works better. It's more profitable, more scalable. Just gives you a visual example of the kind of stuff that you're dealing with. If you do this kind of testing, you can see how it affects your lead volume, lead quality, close rates on those leads. Here we took like a short opt-in, very short, and a long opt-in. So it'd be what we started with there is probably what you would consider a very short, a short, and a long there, depending on which one of those three that I showed you there you go with. And it just shows you what type of leads you can get up, and then ultimately qualified leads. Going the longer approach actually generated more qualified opportunities, which would be people that had the budget, had the need, we could help them, all that stuff, and then just a matter of them saying yes or no from that point. It actually was higher. And obviously the people that were qualified, we got them under our wing, and that's why that works better versus going off to somebody else. And so it's the 20% of the leads that come from Google that really matter. And with this longer mechanism, we can get them to go with us at a higher rate. Really is what that comes down to. Other info offer considerations. So you should always consider giving your prospect multiple calls of action to pick from on your landing pages. Some people, obviously want more information, but that does not mean they can't call or just skip right over all of that. Some people are ready to buy, and those people, if you stick them through the meat grinder and expect them to do what everybody else that's skeptical to do, you're going to end up with a lot less conversions. In conversions, I mean sales, revenue. You might get 1 to 5% every stage of your sequence. That might be 6, 7, 8, 10, 15 touches to buy. I'm really a big believer not just asking them after 7 emails or 7 touches for buy. I'm asking them in a lot of cases to buy every single time, just not in your face. we're offering them something, but there's always a number, there's always a way to just skip all of it right then and there because they're already right then and there. Everybody's going to act differently, everybody's going to have a different process, so we optimize for, we basically keep giving them information and a secondary way to buy at every stage. A lot of people want to have complex forms to kind of to some pre-qualification of their leads and you know, the offers and stuff. But really though, what you really should look at, what makes a big difference in a lot of cases, if you think something's not working and it's before you gut it, go ahead and test the headline. You can see in this instance, I got this research from Marketing Sherpa. The difference between saying we help you lower your payments by 50% and lower your payments by up to 50%, making it more clear as to what you're getting when you fill out the form, made an 88% difference in conversion. So you can see how this one thing could have made an offer that you chalked up as a loss, a winner. So try something, make sure you test your headlines, your call to actions specifically, and your call to actions are probably the most important in these type of funnels before you go ahead and you retest something completely new. So once you get the opt-in, we're going to talk about what to do after that. Email autoresponders. So you can, depending on what niche you're in, I believe in weekly autoresponders. That's what I do for my own firm. What I recommend to people, I see a lot of people do, weekly autoresponders that works. You might do something that goes out right away, and then something that comes out 3 days after, and then every week. At a certain point, you might go to once a month to kind of see if they're still alive. But in any case, you'll know just by your opens and your clicks. I would say that I'd go, if you find that people are opting out, then I would go less aggressive. But obviously there's no cut and dry rule that works for everything. So you're gonna have to do your own testing and just make sure you actually are testing your messages. Then ultimately, if anything gets too low of click through, that you cut it out and you add some other information in there until you find the ultimate set of information the consumer needs to make a purchase decision. You can use this information in your follow-up retargeting ads that you run too, and vice versa. Anything that works on retargeting, you can stick right into your email. It basically should mirror each other, in my opinion, most of the time. CRM system automation. So there's a lot of good softwares out there that you can use CRM wise, some that are actually dialing softwares that integrate, but you probably would, if you're going to do a lot of calling as a part of your follow-ups, to do automated triggers in that at a certain time period that you get a trigger to call them back, usually time based. If you're going to call them, you figure out what the ideal is going to be, a call 2 days later, 5 days later, 7 days later, or after they've clicked a certain amount of your content. Through more sophisticated systems, you can do all that. So as you can see from a similar campaign I've run, even the float time from the target email you need to reach them is from the time that you make the call makes a difference in your success. So, just testing it is very, very important. Like sometimes calling right away is the best. Sometimes calling later on is the best, because obviously in this case we had content behind it. They needed to read a little bit of content before they were ready for a sales call. That kind of piqued their interest. In other cases, you want to call right away, obviously. So what if your best way to communicate highly complicated information about something where somebody probably doesn't have a good background is to sell them on very clear sales copy with images and graphs and all of that stuff before calling them, so that they have a frame of reference. When you get on the phone, then it's just answering questions that are oddballs. All the routine stuff that 80-90% of the people need to know and ask, that should all be handled by content usually before you call. And by then they're ready to talk to if they're really a good lead, they won't care to talk to a salesperson. At that point, it'll just be a way to help them make the final decision whether they want to pick it or not. And they'll appreciate it in most cases, I found. Not when it's bad to call, and vice versa, when you just immediately ask them to make a decision. It doesn't even make sense. Obviously with the higher price of item you got, the longer it usually will take, obviously the bigger sales cycle that you'll have. And then so, I recommend, if you can, go out, a year with your autoresponder and your ads. Just, be conservative about it. If you know the average person doesn't buy for 6 months, space it out to where it will actually make financial sense if you're running ads to do that. But basically though, at the end of the day, if your sales cycle is 8 weeks, for instance, then make sure everything that you need to drip out to them, the core stuff that everybody needs to know, is dripped out in that 8 weeks. No, wait, a year to get it all out, and don't do it all in 7 days either. Kind of try to tie the average time with the length of time the information goes out. That's generally what I found has worked the best. And then obviously, there's the 7 pieces of content that ask for a sale rule. As mentioned, I do ask for the sale inadvertently through every piece of content that I send out. On top of that, then, try to mix up your offers and actually have an explicit offer once in a while, like to take the next step, as some people call it. Get them to interject and ask them to take the next step at periodic points. And then I'm a big believer in just mixing up the offer. Don't just say, are you ready to buy net? No? Okay. Go and read this other content. Make an offer a free consultation, let's say, for instance, and then on the second attempt, offer them a hardback book, copy of a book. By the time you've known they've read 15 emails, an investment in sending them a book that you have that explains more about your company or something like that would be a good ROI by doing that, because it's going to get them heavily invested in you by doing that. And in that case, you can get their address, your physical mailing address, and that's just gets them one step further to making a purchase with you, because you can market to them via that channel as well. So direct mail. We mentioned calls, we mentioned emails, we mentioned ads. I also am a big fan of direct mail. There's not a lot of direct mail going out, and the direct mail that goes out is junk mail, most of it, right? So people stand over their garbage. They throw most of it away, except for their bills maybe that they have to pay, and they don't get any personal letters. So people appreciate direct mail, and I think the return on investment is way higher than it used to be. And because nobody does it, everybody wants to just do ads and web ads and just do email. I can tell you, direct mail works very, very well now. And obviously you should never just do direct mail, but and then obviously it usually works better for the higher value leads. So sending one piece of mail out in terms of your sequence is generally gonna make things go good for you especially if you're dealing with high-end products and services and you have less overall leads to work with, to where that direct mail piece that you send out is just a good value. If you're selling something for that with a deal size of $1,000, maybe not so, but at 10,000 definitely. If it's just say that'll be a good kind of general analogy there. And here's just an example from a campaign or two here. Actually 2, obviously, that we had run just in digital delivery of content that hit on all the points that the customer needed to know before buying, and doing a physical mailer. The physical mailer worked mainly not because it's an easier way to get the information. It's just for the fact that, again, you're building rapport with the customer. And also, again, obviously, if they give you their address, they feel like they're further committed to you. So that one extra $5 that you spend sending them a physical, brochure, or even if it's an ebook, actually creating a physical copy of it and sending it to them. Another thing that people don't consider is when you have that, it can be an intimate moment when they read it. They can be sitting next to the fireplace, they're reading it, not just on their phone. It's a different type of situation. And so there's stuff to consider that. Just at least test it. That's all I have to say. So don't skip right over to calling or sending stuff by snail mail by asking for everything up front, though. So I'm, again, a big believer in bigger companies, you'll see it. They'll have 11 fields on a form. Go to the Salesforce's landing page, you'll see that. And some other bigger software companies, because they want to only deal with qualified leads, and they also want to, and more so, have firepower to market to them, knowing more about that person, using these methods that we were talking about. But with that said, I can tell you by just taking out the telephone number, you can end up with 3 times as many leads. So the name of the game here shouldn't be to weed out all the good people just to get their address right away. It should be to do what you need to do to get the people into the system, and then weed them out through your back-end stuff that costs less money to do it. Send them 3 or 4 emails, see who's really motivated, then ask for address for getting a book, and then ask for a phone number for a free consultation after 7 emails and 7 ads and stuff like that. So you creep into it until you have a full database of information on the person, because it'll be way more cost effective, and you'll end up with a lot more customers or clients overall doing it that way. And then live chat boxes. I've had a lot of success recently with not just doing the old opt-in for more information after giving them a lot of free information to build up to that. Actually just going right into and skipping all of it and go right into the sales sequence, depending on the niche, what it is, where people need to engage. Some people, I should say a lot of people anymore, are afraid of the phone. They just won't get on the phone. Most people will engage in a chat right away, even if they're not really committed to buy anything. They're not giving up information, they're just chatting. So you get in there. One common trick I know that you can use if you still want their information, just say, in case we get disconnected, what is your information? So that's just one way to get it. But you also, even if you don't do that, just answer a few of their questions. You'd be surprised how effective that is to get all their information. Then by then, they're so committed into your sequence already. Then add in all that other information on the back end. That system can generally work really well, much better than just asking for an opt-in for a buyer's guide, or just asking them to call, either or in a lot of niches. So go ahead and give that a try or a thought too. So I hope you like this presentation. For more stuff like this, you can go ahead and go to my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com. I'm regularly coming out with high-end or advanced PPC strategies such as this. Strategies that you can't find anywhere else online, that go into detail on how to use pay-per-click ads, and also how to integrate that with your other marketing strategies. And then we do all this stuff, landing pages, ads, and then do all the automation like this. And if you have a campaign that you need to work on, we guarantee more results than you're getting now if you're currently running a campaign in 60 days. We don't take a fee, where nobody else is doing that. But at the very least, I encourage you to come check out some of our other blog posts, or just or subscribe and keep informed on the latest PPC strategies and how you can use PPC strategies to specifically increase your sales, money-making strategies with PPC.